You could say many good things about Moi, and toss in a few bad ones. But on the side of the good one, there's one that many people don't seem to know. Moi was actually a feminist by his deeds. If you look, the moment he took power, beginning with Pangani girls, this shiny school, it was a simple day school. And Moi began with Pangani girls. I said, we cannot allow our girls to be commuting with all these crooks around with bad eyes looking at them. Our girls must be in boarding schools. He started with Pangani and got some land that used to belong to Kenya Post and Telecommunication. You see the one on the other side of the road. And put up those structures. And from then onwards, it was non-stop. It was non-stop, like Helen is saying. Moi mainstreamed women. And a part of that, affirmative action, quota system, really favored women. But in education, when proper history is written about Moi's contribution in this country, the way he managed education, and specifically for girls, will feature prominently. And 15, 17 years after Moi, 18 years after Moi, nobody has attempted even half of that. We only talk about things we have put in laws. Oh, gender, 2/3 this, just talking. Moi did. Just equally with the environment. Many people say we give accolades so and so, Moi is what, but Moi was on the ground actually planting trees and doing those Gabion things. So I think I agree with Helen that Moi, to a great extent, mainstreamed women.
Mainstream women.
Yeah.
Let's see from Farah Maalim, you during your tenure also as a speaker of the National Assembly. We're still grappling with the 2/3 gender rule as it is right now.
Yes.
People are in court, and you've not been able to. We've not been able to actually do it as a country to get that particular parity. Also,
there was a fundamental difference in the manner in which Moi wanted to empower the female gender. All marginalized communities in this country, the females, our mothers, sisters, and wives being part of that. He was creating the opportunities for them to assert themselves and to get the wherewithal to compete with men. He was not setting aside things for them. He did not say these seats are for women, which is wrong in my case. I mean, I have never supported the idea of constitutionalizing a certain percentage of parliament for one gender or the other. You let the sky be the limit. When we started going through the education system, and by the way, let me tell you one thing. Those of us who come from the minorities, the marginalized communities in this country, we owe it all to Moi. We owe it to him for having integrated what we are seeing there. We were hitherto as just being second-class citizens. The Turkanas, the Somalis, the Pokots, the Njems, everybody, the Borans. We were basically, when our people are coming to Nairobi, they used to say, we're going to Kenya. We're going to Kenya. And the system itself under Kenyatta, after we got independence, was so skewed because of the sessional paper number 10, which said intensification of government's investments into the high potential areas and forgetting about the rest. I came to Parliament myself here when we used to send one student or two at the maximum from northeastern schools into universities here. I took a private member's motion, which basically has no obligation on the government to implement. I took a private member's motion on a Wednesday, affirmative action through quota system, and listed all those marginal areas. And Biwot was there. The late Biwot was there. A few of the young hawks who were so much those days into the opposition Kanu politics felt that this man was from the opposition, was from Fort Kenya, that we should shoot down his own motion. But when I started presenting that and showing that pitiful state of affairs of the people of the areas I came from and many other areas, including Turkana, I remember, I was not going to mention the name, but there was one particular young hawk from Kanu that time was jumping up and down with points of order, points of order. Biwot held him like that and forced him to sit down and said, don't interrupt again. And everybody noticed it. So the entire Kanu side listened these things with a pin drop silence. By the time I had finished doing that, he whispered something into the ears and talked with Intimama. Intimama offered to second that motion. Imagine those days in 1993, where the divide between Kanu and the opposition was so big, so surgical, that to be seen with a Kanu person even having a cup of tea, another opposition person having a cup of tea, would be an enlightenment of some kind. And then Biwot said, do you know what? I got 100% support in that motion on the floor of the House, because he sent some young and said, we must support that. Moi forced the system to implement that private member's motion. He said, I don't care myself. This is for the children of Northeastern Province. And I remember from having one student going in there, or 2 or 3 going to diploma colleges, we took 550 students in one go. Let me just finish that. In one go. And from then on, we never looked back. And I remember the late Ishwani, Professor Ishwani, myself, and of course the late Bonaya Godana was also a very good friend of mine, and we supported, we were together in these things, because although he came from the other side of the divide, was really interested in education. Late Ishwani, at that time the Minister for Education was Kamotho. I want you to listen to this. And Kamotho said it's going to compromise the academic excellence of our own institutions if you lower the points for admissions. And it was like equal opportunity, equal merit, but there's no opportunity in here. And do you know, another guy who became a member of parliament, William Boit, who was the director of Kenya Medical Colleges, who was very close to the president, by the way, because they came from the same home. He's from Baringo also. In 1 year, took 330 students from our region, where they used to take 5, 6, 7, and no more than that. And he told me, Farah, we are going to do this as a pilot project. If it fails, because Mzee wants it to be implemented. If it fails, we will go back to the previous one.
Thank you.
Out of 10 students, 11 students were admitted into the faculty of pharmacy, which into the pharmacy course. 10 of them came out as the top students in that class in the first what do you call? And now we have a situation in which Nancy Macharia, in line with what the first founding fathers' attitude towards these marginal areas were, is saying that you cannot admit students with C- and D+ to go and study as teacher training colleges to come out with P1s. The idea is create this employment for your own backyard and run this as a tribal fiefdom, which of course you could never do it.
Thank you, Farah.
But now again, we're back to...
Right, let's say from Gladys on gender mainstreaming and Congo Mogene.
Yes, I mean, if you look at Moi's journey and like what Helen has said, Moi had something that he did personally. His intelligence briefings were so accurate that in every place, he knew people that he had promoted for certain programs. Because in his mind, he knew, if I want to do any work in Bungoma, we have 3 people that we have created. So he was creating champions for each of his causes that he believed in every area. Same with the ASAL regions, when he was getting students to come out of there. He set a good basis. He was bringing students to Kabarak and sponsoring themselves. So Kabarak actually had the entire country in Kabarak. And it's because in his mind, he knew you must educate people from every corner of Kenya so that those people go back to build their countries. Even with the Beijing protocol, he was setting a basis. We'd not be grappling with the challenges of failing to meet the 1/3 gender principle today had we continued with the momentum that Moi had created. And he created a conducive environment for gender mainstreaming. But what happened is we clawed back on every gain that we have had. If you remember in between 92 and 97, we had the highest elected members of parliament women, particularly from the Rift Valley.
Yes.
So you ask yourself, what then? And they were not just any women. These were women of highly accomplished women. Professor Kamar, Dr. Sally Kosgei, Professor Sambili, people. So you can see we gained so much. Now we have fallen back. And I think we should use this opportunity as an honor to Moi's legacy to ensure that we sit back and ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? Hence the reason why sometimes when you study history and look at past reports, look at the past policies that had worked, you can be able to prepare a new document being able to put us back on the right track. But instead, what do? We create a new document called BBI and we politicize it. Therefore, it will never do what it was intended to do. But if you look at what we have, those policies today can be able to be used. So we need to go back on that journey that was started. But lastly, also, Moi can be credited for saving the region. He worked hard. He didn't just say, let Uganda go to civil war and collapse, let Somalia collapse, let South Sudan collapse. You deliberately knew that if I don't protect the regions around us, even Kenya won't be able to survive. So even just that vision is amazing. And I tell people, that's why they call it a legacy, someone's legacy. Because sometimes at the time when the person is there and undertaking those policies, we discredit them. It's only afterwards when we see what has happened to us today, then you compare and you think, oh my God, on hindsight,
we were in a better place.
We were in a better place.
Right, let's hear from Congo Mogini.
Yeah, I think there's something Farah has raised. I think Moi, if you read page 10 to 11, I think Moi was a believer in empowering a child to have access to education. And I think he believed in the power of the people to elect their leaders. And I think that's what Helen here is raising. She's saying, you bring this issue of gender, and then you give a blank check to people who own political parties to nominate anybody they want to pick, which is wrong. And I think I hope Kenyans have listened to her. You know, she's saying you cannot ignore people who have put in resources, who have passion for politics, who have vied for political seats, and who have received votes. You knock them off the nomination, then you pick people who have never had anything to do with the politics being nominated to take these slots that are reserved for women. I think what she has raised today should invite a national conversation on how we should deal with this issue of nomination. It should not be who knows who. It should be, is this person fit to join this bus of politics?
Therefore, Senator Mugeni is actually supporting my bill, because my bill says we should not nominate women. We should instead allow them to vie, create more position for them to vie, so that they will have legitimacy and people.
Thank you.
Actually, what Moi could have done, I think Moi could have said, we give you an environment where you can compete. And you know the bad. You know there are 3 women trailblazers in gubernatorial seats. Ngilu vied against an incumbent male governor, and she won. In Bomet, the late Lois. I mean, look at the statue of Isaac Ruto. And Laboso ran against Isaac Ruto and beat Isaac. Waiguru here in Kirinyaga. Talk of the senator for Isiolo, Fatuma Dulo. She ran against men. And I think that's what Moi was trying to do. Moi was trying to say, let's empower the girl child to receive education and then enter the realm of competing with men.
When they are ready and empowered.
You know, but now we have brought in another culture where we are saying we should encourage women to step back, not to participate in politics. We will pick you to go and sit in those elective posts. Like she's telling you, in our county they have 30 MCS, then you pick another 15 women. Just
women who have not
any
constituency.
Any constituency they have never engaged
that is
in
a problem
politics.
most women leaders are having in the grassroots.
Yes.
Because grassroots knows they are women. Me being a manager of farmers in Bungoma, everybody knew who Helen is. But you know, election has its own gymnastics. But on the ground, you are still a woman leader for others. And those women cannot penetrate the group. Because people feel like they are shortchanged. They know this woman could work for us independently. So the system should be able to allow women who have a constituency to be nominated. Then, look at a situation like this. An MP maybe nominates his relative, his kinsman, or his other friend, Mpango Wakando. And I mean, it's just one MP ruling. And only those resources are just going to those cliques. So there's nothing reaching a common person. But a woman with passion to serve and bring community development, there's a way the system should be able to create that position. Because I know, if I'm appointed, for example, the first people who will always come to my office freely because they have known me, they are my supporters. And when they come to my office and they are my supporters and they benefit, they are Kenyans. But look at a woman who don't have even a supporter. People know who will go to his office. We don't know. And then 5 years are going. Sometimes because they have to spend the budget of the women fund, you will see that money being abused. Of course, men will come there with their schemeful nature.
And then there is another issue she has raised, you know,
just a moment,
that we can pick from. You know, look at the merits. You know, when Moi picked people to receive scholarship, he went for the best.
Yes, I
You know, she got the scholarship because she was one of the best. Now,
From her background.
yes, in our constituencies, we have this thing you call a bursary fund. And you can hear the chief was involved. It is actually the chief who took the letter to her. Now we have a fund we are running called the bursary fund. But I think we have again politicized. And I think more is passed on, let's learn something. You know, we have bursary fund where people just give their cronies. You don't give to deserving cases. You don't reward merit.
So
she topped the district, got the scholarship. And Moi was there to receive, and then we follow up. I think...
Now when you ask yourself...
Sorry. I think what we need to learn from our story today, and it's good that she's a politician. You know, if we raise these things, people will say we are talking politics. But I think she's raising an issue that this issue of called bursary, let it be something that is merit-based, and then involve the local administration, because the assistant chief, the chief, understand their people. And then you as a member of parliament, do a follow-up.
Thank you. Let's leave it at that. Thank you. Herman Manyora, briefly, then we also shall give our headline thoughts, please.
As we celebrate Moi's life, and as we zero down on this thing of affirmative action and women, I go the Moi way. I choose to go the Moi way because teach a man how to fish. Don't give them fish. Give opportunities to women by way of removing traditional cultural barriers. Make women access education. Work on the schools. Let them go through the system and compete. I do not believe in affirmative action, not for women, not for anybody. We have now written into our law books that the face of Kenya, I don't care who gets what job. The only thing I care, it is a Kenyan who can do that job.
Thank you.
I've said here, and I must say it now before I close, when you are being wheeled into the theater for an operation, you don't care who is up. You want just the best surgeon.
Thank you. Thank you, Herman.
Yeah.
Briefly, your closing remarks?
Yes.
Briefly, very briefly, sir.
There was some very sad things that happened during his time. And I want to believe as much as possible he had the least to do with that. For example, we've had the Wagara incident ourselves, which we feel that people took really great advantage of that to more or less do the awful things that were done to us, which has never been brought to a closure. The Bula Kartas in Garissa, all that. And I think one day people, the real people who are responsible for that will be brought to book one way or the other. But having said that, we had a united country that time. We had a united country in the sense you never saw any of the immediate relatives of Moi in power, you know, hanging around there in power. Baby Watts was from KU. I think that was the only person who was there. And a few others who also...
But KU is very separate from
Very separate from Tugenland, yes. But you never saw his children.
Thank you.
You never saw any immediate relatives around there. Unlike, of course, the kind of situations that you're easily bound to come, you know, to terms with. Gideon and the rest of them only asserted themselves after their father left politics. And the last thing I want to say is that the country, let me just finish. The country is going back. We are now going back to the dark days in which this country was thoroughly divided.
Thank you.
I just hope the BBI is going to reclaim Moi's system of doing things, and then we can try and save.
Thank you, Farah. Gladys, your closing remarks?
Yes, I'll just
briefly
respond to Mariam by saying the BBI will not take us back to the Moi days because it is a hopeless document. Nevertheless, I want to say this. I want to ask Kenyans that let us learn something from Moi's legacy. There's so many lessons to be learned. It should be a time of reflection as we mourn with the family. It should be a time of reflecting and trying to re-engineer ourselves as a country to bring our country back to greatness.
Right, thank you. Okongo?
Yeah, I think mine is first to say condolences to the Moi family. We serve with Senator Moi, to him and family. My message of condolences. And I think for us as a country, if you look at Moi's cabinet, it used to reflect the face of Kenya, you know, the whole country. Yes. So whoever, you know, gets the privilege of being our president, please understand that we have a tribe, Kenya is a tribe of 42 ethnic groups. Try to spread this cake to these all 42 tribes.
Thank you very much. Finally, Helen Nafuna, thank you for coming through.
I want to send my condolence to the family of our late president, and also my appeal to leaders of Kenya, they have the country in their hands, so they should be very careful because 42 million Kenyans look at them to protect them, and they should also identify the gifted people, whether in sports, whether in academia, so that they let their stars to shine. Because it's through excellence, through those gifted exemplary people, that our country will develop.